Welcome, patrons. It's about time for some more old gods, so let's go over one that hasn't risen up for a blight yet. Razikale. The Old God. Razikale is the old god of mystery, and one of the only ones to be referred to as female, which in itself shouldn't actually be odd, as all dragons are females in Thedas. Males are drakes. So the others being male is actually more unusual. And like I mentioned before, she's one of the only two old gods that is still slumbering under Thedas, so it's likely that we might see more of her in the future. As said in the Chant of Light, when the high priests of the old gods broke into the Golden City, they took a pseudonym. Razikale's priest took the name of the Augur of Mystery. From that title, we can also assume a few things, namely that an augur is someone who searches for signs of divine messages. In the tale of the city of Barren Door, it describes priests of Razikale dreaming of bad omens, and that they had oracles in their ranks. So it seems that a lot of worship of Razikale seeped heavily in the Fade and trying to foresee the future. We don't know much about the worship of Razikale in general, other than that the priest would hold a staff like this one as badges of office. Another fun fact is currently in Tevinter, the Minrathous Circle Tower once was a temple of Razikale. Now, what's interesting about Razikale is that there was an unusual amount of her brought up in Dragon Age Inquisition. There was a Razikale's Reach in the Jaws of Hakon DLC, making it one of the few ruins of an old god's temple that we can actually see in-game. As told through some codex entries, the temple used to be a holy site of the Avars, where they were able to talk to spirits. But soon after the silence of the old gods, brought on by the Magisters going into the Golden City, followers of Razikale and Ferelden took the holy site and tried to amplify it, hoping to hear her voice again. But as we all know, it didn't work. Current local Avar believe that the Tevinters did something horrible in that place and no longer go there, with reports that vengeful spirits lurk the temple. But while we are there as the Inquisitor, we don't really see such spirits. There are also a few interesting notes in the area that you can find, but are not actually added to the Codex. To she who winds the skein of wisdom, we dedicate this citadel. Dragon of mystery, bestow upon your faithful servants your ineffable truth. Grant us eyes to pierce the darkness and souls to bear the wounds of your labyrinth. And another that talks about how the old gods went silent and that her followers have been abandoned, and ends with this. Razikale, O shadow which obscures the path ahead, deliver your faithful, save us from the silence which devours. And another, Dragon of mystery, return to us, we beg you. Your servants falter, the path ahead are lost in darkness, and those who walk them find only ruin. Those who should guide us instead wage war upon each other, vying for a throne that does not exist. The blood of the sacrifices that seeps into the stone here shall be the only truth we reveal in the end. Her followers then talk more about those who serve the Twisted Path, which we don't know what that means, and plan to make a new Minrathous in Ferelden, saying that the Imperium has fallen, with the final message saying that madness has filled the silence and to not return to the temple. In the Western approach, if you follow the quest on the Chantry's Trail, you can come to a marker near a cave. Now, this isn't the cave at the end of the quest, but another one earlier on. In the cave is a landmark called the Lost Idol, with a few notes that explain that this is an idol showing the worshippers of Razikale doing some sort of ritual, along with a journal that mentions that they hate the statue because she just keeps sneering at me. Now, this marker is actually seen throughout the game, so who knows if we really need to dissect this, but other than the details I've already given you, I'm not really sure on what I'm looking at anyway. Is that woman Razikale, in which that would be the only human depiction of any of the old gods, which is interesting. There's also a constellation that is supposedly once associated with her, Alluvia/Sacrifice. It depicts a seated woman with her head in the clouds. Modern Theists believe it is associated with an Orlesian tale from the Glory Age about how a young woman named Alluvia was saved by her father after he sent her into the sky when a lustful mage went after her. The father was killed by the mage, becoming the sacrifice. In Old Tevinter, the constellation was a source for some superstition revolving around the granting of wishes. There is also one notable mention of her in Dragon Age Origins, where the Codex entry of Lake Calenhad talks about how the Tevinters believed that the waters of Lake Calenhad were blessed by Razikale, and those that drank from it were granted special insights. This is also why they built what is now the Ferelden Circle Tower in the middle of that lake. The theory. Now, like the previous videos, if the old gods and the Evanuris are associated with one another, which old god goes to what elven god? Now, as a quick aside, Razikale brings up a good question we should be asking. Do the genders of the old gods matter? Because if they do, there are more female elven gods than old gods. Could history have gotten their genders wrong? Or perhaps this is just proof that the old gods are not the elven gods, but maybe could still be something related? Either way, I'm just going to base my theory on the realms that each god presides over and not so much their genders. So with that, which elven god is connected to Razikale? Dirthaman. This is one of the more obvious choices for me. The elven god of secrets has to connect with the old god of mystery, right? After that, there isn't much connection, although only because we don't know that much on Razikale, just the people who follow her. Although it is interesting to note that both Razikale and Dirthaman in Dragon Age Inquisition have followers that freaked out when their gods went silent. Granted, that probably happened with all of the gods, but we have two noticeable temples that we can fight through with those two gods. Andrul. Now this one may surprise you, but hear me out. While Andrul is known to be the goddess of the hunt, there is another source that she could also be the goddess of sacrifice. Connecting that to the constellation of Alluvia, which is also known as Sacrifice, there may be something here. Enough that I would honestly tie this with Dirthaman as my main guesses. Falon Din. I feel like this one is maybe like a bit of a stretch, but Falon Din is the elven god of the dead and was known to help souls of the elven find their way in the Fade. While Razikale doesn't have that reputation, the inscriptions in the Ferelden Temple and things that we know about her worshippers ask her for help in what seems to be walking the Fade, so there is a bit of an argument here. Juné. While Juné is known as the god of crafts, there is also a slight hint that he could have been something with puzzles or something that needed him to be clever, so old god of mysteries could be related, maybe? I don't know. And that, dear patrons, is all that we know on Razikale. Do you still have lingering questions, proof that I'm wrong, comments about your own fan theory? Feel free to tweet me at @Godathon on Twitter or send a PM to user Gillenon on Reddit. Dress your all.